Okay, so what's important to know is a device a recording device only, or is it a recording and a playback device? It's very easy to determine if it is only a recording device or it is a recording and a playback device. If you find it under the recording tab, obviously it can record. And you'll see right now the green bars are bouncing because these USBs are plugged in and are receiving input. When you switch to the playback tab, you can see which of these devices have the ability to play back audio for me. So the Realtek, my sound card, obviously does have that ability. So does the Andrea Pure Audio USB-SA. So does the C-Media USB headphone set, which is something I picked up at convention this year. So is the Samsung Go mic. I bet a lot of you did not know that it is also a playback device, but it is. And then, of course, the Sound Blaster X5 Go Pro is also a playback device. It's important to know this because I have seen sound cards go bad in computers before, and I believe that's primarily because when a surge comes through a computer, a power surge, it is almost always going to hit the sound card first, and if it does, it's out. It's going to burn out your sound card. And the good news about knowing that you have devices that can be playback devices is that you can then plug external speakers into these other USB devices or headsets and then switch. Like, let's say that I wanted to plug my headset into, let's see, I do have a headset port on my Pure Audio, so I could actually plug in my headset to the Pure Audio device, and then I would want to, not the Pure Audio, excuse me, the Samsung Go mic. And so if I right-click on the Samsung Go mic and I say set as default device, then it's going to actually play back in my headset as opposed to out loud. And so I can just put my headset on one of my ears and I can hear from that perspective. What you might also notice when you're in this playback tab is that there is another green circle with an emblem inside it. And if you right-click on the speaker, you will see that you can also set not only as the default device, but you can set it as the default communication device. That might have been something that we could only do in Windows 8 because I don't see, there we go, set as default communication device. I can go ahead and do that. I can set it as the default communication device, but I normally do use the Realtek high definition for things like Skype. And when I'm dialing into your computers via TeamViewer, I'm also normally just set on the Realtek because I don't use it for SpeechCat. I use it strictly for other applications in dealing with all of you. So it's very important that you understand what your sound card's name is so that when you go to the sound setup, you can say, okay, well, I might want to use my sound card for this or that. I might want to use another USB device for this or that. And I'm perfectly capable of right-clicking on it, setting it as the default device so that I can put my microphone, my headset rather, into that device and listen from that device during a job. Okay, let's talk about identifying your computer's ports. I find this is extremely common. It's extremely common for people to not understand what their ports are or not know where their ports are when they first get a machine. So I've got some examples over here on the right. This is the old way, the way that I still prefer, but is not readily available very much. That is when you have both an audio out port that generally has a little headset next to it, as well as an audio in port, which normally will have either a microphone or an audio symbol that has, it looks like a dot with parens around it, and that usually means that it's line in capable as opposed to just mic in. We rarely use sound cards anymore, except for when somebody wants to use it as the backup voice track. Sound cards generally do not produce the same quality of audio as a USB audio device, which is why we default to having the USB audio device. Now, what I have as well on this slide is a sample of a splitter that you can purchase for a combo port. I recently purchased several of them, and the whole purpose of this is that you plug the splitter into the combo port, which you can see on the right, so that you actually have a place to plug in both a headset and a microphone. I am going to move on to the next slide if no one... Okay, let's talk about USB audio devices in Windows 10. We're going to start from the beginning. The Buddy 7G is not a very common USB audio device, but it's a wonderful device. It works really great. One of the things that I especially like about it is the USB has a button. Do you see that? There's a little button on the top of the Buddy that you can actually press that mutes it, which is convenient. The USB Buddy generally shows up as the Buddy USB 7G. And you can see that it shows up in both the recording tab and the playback tab. That means you can use it to record audio as well as to play back audio. And what you'll see over here on the port is not the port that plugs into the computer. That's the one on the other end, but the one that's facing us. You can see that it has a pink port, and I think it looks like a gray port, but I believe that mine is green. I think it depends on what version of the Buddy that you have as to what color the ports are, but the pink is almost always mic in. It is a reliable device for creating a voice track or a voice backup track. I have not verified if it works as a stereo device. I believe it works best as a mono device. This can be found on Amazon. It's not a really expensive device. At the Sound Blaster X5 GoPro. This has been my primary device for probably 2 years. It's a really reliable device. It's not very expensive. It can be found at Best Buy as well as on Amazon, on several places online. The first image that you see of the Sound Blaster shows the Sound Blaster cap, which is held on by a string. The second picture that you see is a little extender that comes with it. Use the extender. Why? Because if you don't use the extender and you have two USB ports that are side by side, you try to plug in that second USB port, it will not fit because the Sound Blaster, the black part of the Sound Blaster is so wide. And so we always use the little connector, which keeps us from turning our ports from a good port to a bad port, because when you put USB devices next to each other and they don't really fit, they don't have enough room, they end up pushing on each other, and that eventually loosens your USB port, and then your USB starts falling out of it and it becomes a world of problems. So always use the extender. This device can be used as a stereo recording device. That's why the splitter is here. You can see that there is, it's very small, but you can see that there is a microphone on the left-hand side and a little headset emblem on the right-hand side of the Sound Blaster. And so you would plug in either your mask, as I do, into the mic port, and you can use the headset port if you'd rather use that than your sound card. You can do that. If you would be using the splitter, you would plug the splitter into the mic in port primarily, and then you would plug the microphones into the white and the red extension ports from the splitter. Okay, moving on. The Pure Audio SA. This is a wonderful device. It's a wonderful device whether it is for your mask or whether it is for your room. Some people do use it to record only one room track. I consistently use it with the red and white splitter to record 2 channels of audio on one track. I'm showing you on this slide that the Pure Audio comes in 2 distinct formats. The first format and the oldest format is the one that is pictured at the left, which has the blue light on it, and you can see the pink and the green ports. This product, as wonderful as it is, caused the exact same problems that the Sound Blaster did, in that you couldn't put 2 of them side by side. And so they got smart about it and added a little tail to it. And so now it fits much better into a USB port with another USB right next to it. It is a playback device. You can put your headset into the green port and right-click on the Andrea Pure Audio USB SA in the playback tab and set it as the default device so that you can listen through a headset with this device if you like. It's a wonderful device. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It is overall extremely reliable. The Andrea stereo device. I have terrible, terrible news. The news has broken and it has been confirmed. The Andrea stereo will no longer be produced. There are only 800 left. That's it, and that's all. This is a wonderful device. I am so sorry to see it go. It was just a step below its predecessor, which was the Mono Andrea, which has been discontinued for several years now. These 2 devices were the first. No, they weren't. I think we used the VXI first, then we went to these. But so reliable, so good. The Andrea stereo can be used as a mono device or a stereo device with a splitter, as is pictured in image number 2. And you cannot play back from this device. It does not have a port for playback. Okay, here we're getting into much more technical topic. If you do have a question, please post it in the chat. Let's talk about USB power. Showing you here the USB power management facilitates your USB going to sleep if you no longer need it. I hope you're all saying eek on the other side. What a horrible thing. You would not want your device to fall asleep while you are working, because then it would no longer be recording. So what we do is, and I'll show you this, you can see at the bottom, I hope you can see my taskbar. And from the taskbar, if you click on the Start button and you go to Settings, That will bring you to the first image that I have on the presentation. And then you go to Devices. And if you type in Device Manager, it'll come right up. You click on it. And this will bring up all of the devices on your computer. What you want to do is scroll down to the bottom where you see Universal Serial Bus Controllers. And if you click on that arrow to the left of it, so that the arrow is pointing down, it's going to show you all of your USB devices. At which point you would click on the first one with your left click, you would right click on it and then go to Properties. If you see a Power Management tab, click on it, and then you will see Generic USB Hub. Allow the computer to turn off this device to save power. If it is checked, it can turn it off. So it must be unchecked. And you click on OK, and you go to the next one. Left click, then right click, Properties, Power Management. No check, we're good. Left click, right, left click first, one click, right click second, Properties, Power Management, make sure it's off, okay. Now there are a lot of things on here that are not USB audio devices. Obviously my camera is not an audio device. My host controller is not an audio device. My 5th generation USB controller is not an audio device. So I'd skip all this stuff and I'd go right back down to USB composite devices. What you will notice is that the composite devices do not have a management tab. That's fine, you're good, click on OK. All these are going to be the same. I'm going to go down to the root hub. Left click once to highlight it, right click and Properties. These do have a power management. Make sure there is no check here and click on OK. Same thing with the second root hub. Right click, Properties, Power Management. Make sure there's no check. OK. This is not difficult to do, as you can see. It's all about just knowing the steps, and they're written right here for you. This PowerPoint is available in PDF. Okay, USB audio naming properties. This is something that I don't think most people truly understand. A USB device is going to install onto your computer the first time you plug it in. And it's going to install specifically to that port. And normally when it first installs, I'm going to go to, if you see this little 2, that does not show up until you plug that exact same device into a separate USB port. So the first time you plug it in, it'll just say Andrea Stereo USB mic. But the second time you plug it into a different port, it'll all of a sudden have the little 2 with the dash in front of it. If you yet again plug it into a third USB port, then it will have a 3 dash Andrea Stereo USB mic. And that is how you get those little numbers. When you go to Sound Setup and you choose a USB audio device with the little number or without, you're selecting that USB device and that USB port with whatever's plugged into it. So if you have set up the Andrea Stereo USB mic in a different port, you go into real time, it's going to say, I don't see 2 Andrea Stereo USB mic. It's not there. Well, obviously you plugged it into the original port you plugged it in, or the third port you plugged it in, because it's not in the second port. So it's really important to know what each device is seen as by your computer itself, so that you will know when you get to Sound Setup what you want to select and what you want that selection to record. The next topic is one that is quite frustrating for many people. USB audio devices can be called different things by the Windows operating system, or they can be called the same thing. This is not my preference. Using devices that have the same identification with Windows 10 is going to be very difficult for you because you're not going to know which device is which unless they have a number. And if you plug them each into ports for the first time and they stay into those 3 ports every time you take down, then they will all say USB audio device with no numbers, and you truly won't know which one is which. And that's going to make it very difficult to complete your sound setup in a good way. Okay, let's move on.